Hello, authors. I'm freelance fiction editor Miranda Darrow, here with your weekly video on writing, editing, and the writing life. This week, I'm wishing you a happy Halloween week. And what's more scary than trying to plot your novel, especially if you're planning to participate in a fall fiction writing event like Red Pit's Fall into Fiction? I've got this month's writing craft book review for James Scott Bell's Write Your Novel from the Middle. I love James Scott Bell's book on writing craft. They're very small, they're very accessible. I often use his dazzling dialogue when I'm working with editing clients. Like Bell's other writing craft books, it's short and it's funny and it's full of great advice. This year, I've been reviewing writing craft books on story structure, and this one has a unique angle. It's not specifically for pantsers and plotters, and at the end, he's got some tips, both for plotters and for pantsers, and it can be helpful if the author is stuck. It recommends that the authors think first about the midpoint. What's the turning point at the middle of the book that will cause the main character to change course? And then what happened that caused this as a result? It's not the climax, which is near the end, but it's the turning point, generally located in the middle of the book. As Bell says, the midpoint moment tells us what the movie's really all about. The character is going to have to face a death of some kind, and they will need to confront one or more of these in bold relief right dab in the middle of your novel. Bell goes on to explain that death for your main character would need to face could be physical, professional, psychological, or some combination of all three. He gives examples of all, but he focuses on romance novels for examples of psychological death by saying, if the lovers don't get together, they will miss out on their soulmate and their lives will be incurably damaged. Since readers of traditional romance know that they're going to end up together, it's all the more important to create this illusion of imminent psychological death. Raise those stakes, authors. Bell talks about three pillars in your novel. The first pillar is what Bell calls the doorway of no return number one. So the beginning of the novel tells us who the main characters are and the world that they're inhabiting. It sets the tone and the stakes, but the novel doesn't really take off until they reach this first pillar. He gives some examples, like in The Maltese Falcon, doorway of no return number one is when Detective Sam Spade agrees to take on Bridget O'Shaughnessy's case. And in To Kill a Mockingbird, it's when attorney Atticus Finch agrees to represent the Black man accused of raping a white girl. For most novels, this first pillar is within the first 1/5 of the pages. Bell's advice for working on the first pillar is a checklist. Have you given us a character worth following? Have you created a disturbance in the opening pages? Do you know the death stakes in the story? Have you created a scene that will force your characters into confrontation? And is there a strong enough confrontation? Can the lead character resist going into battle? And does this occur before the 1/5 mark in your total page count? Bell calls the second pillar the doorway of no return number two, and he describes this as escalating conflict and tension leading up to confrontation in Act Two. For this section, Bell says there should either be a major crisis or setback that the lead must overcome, or a clue or discovery that makes the final resolution possible is a turning point. And then Bell talks about the magical midpoint, where the lead needs to look into the mirror and take stock of where they're at in the conflict, and they can have one of two different reflections. In character-driven fiction, the lead should wonder what kind of person they are. And in plot-driven fiction, the lead considers what are the odds against them in reaching their goal, and they seem so vast, and that there's no way for them to really carry on. At this point, they must face a death, physical, professional, and or psychological, at this key moment. Bell says, whether you're a plotter or a pantser, or anything in between, just think about what this look in the mirror will reveal and help you to bring depth and cohesion to your novel. It's a magic moment. And that's the key word, moment. It's a true midpoint, not the whole scene. It's a moment within a scene. It's like the Earth's core. And find the true center. Find it in your novel, and everything else will radiate from around it. Now that you know that your mirror moment, go back to the beginning and dig into the pre-story psychology of your lead character. Create organic backstory filled with this midpoint, which is what your story is really all about. There's less slogging aimlessly now that you have this focus, what we're leading to. And then to work on the second half, create the transformation you want your main character to go through. Scott says, people can talk a good game. Someone can say he's sorry for stealing and wants to go straight, but until the thief returns the goods, we won't believe he's a changed person. Change involves an inner realization from that mere moment, but then the last part of the book is to prove it by working with the outward in a visual form. Examples of this transformation include Scrooge going on a generosity spree. Scott encourages authors to write a paragraph of the main character's inner realization and then brainstorm how they can live it out, how they can show the readers that the change is real. Scott has a graphic of a triangle with the mirror moment at the top, and then on the one side is the pre-story psychology, and the other side is the transformation. For plotters, he also gives a beat sheet with the list of key scenes, but these aren't a requirement. I've got a different list of items for pantsers. So first up, if you are a plotter and you are interested in the beats, this is the short description. The book has the long description. The short description are opening disturbance, a care package, and argue against transformation. Then we have trouble brewing, doorway of no return number 1, a kick in the shins, I love that one, and the mirror moment. Here we are, we're halfway through. Then we have a beat that he calls pet the dog, doorway of no return number 2, mounting forces, lights out, the Q factor. I will tell you, this one's named after James Bond's character Q. This is like what's the special thing that's going to get us out of this? The final battle, and then transformation. Those are the beats. If you're a beat sheet fan, there's a complete description of them all in the book. For pantsers, Bell recommends asking 4 questions to noodle through in plotting your book. Who is your main character and what's their problem? Can you give your main character a moral flaw that hurts others? What's in your main character's backstory that caused that flaw? It's for positive character arcs. How will your main character overcome this flaw and become transformed? But for negative character arcs, how will your main character have the opportunity to overcome this flaw and then reject it and fail? There's a lot more explanation and examples in this books. So if this sounds like it might be helpful for you, check out James Scott Bell's Write Your Novel from the Middle. It's our Writing Craft Book Review of the Month, and I'm Miranda Darrow, freelance fiction editor, here every week with videos on writing, editing, and the writing life. I have written summaries of my Writing Craft book reviews on my website, which is mirandadarrow.com, and I post new videos every Sunday. So like, subscribe, and share if you want to see more from me. Until then, happy writing!